everybody, welcome back to Stagey Bookish. It is time to wrap up my April/quarantine reads. Let's get into it. Hello everybody, I hope you are keeping well. Welcome back to Stagey Bookish. Like I said in the introduction, it is time to wrap up April's reads. Now, I don't know about for anyone else, but April seems to have been the month that was everlasting. It's hard to believe that I'm filming this on Wednesday the 29th of April, so it's May in 2 days. It seems like the start of April was years ago. I don't know how you feel, but to me it feels like years ago. But I haven't done too bad reading-wise, and I'm looking forward to kind of hopefully do more positive reading as we go forward into May. You'll be seeing this probably in the first few days of May, so my TBR will be following soon, I promise. But I wanted to just share with you the books that I read during April. During April, I read 8 books, and I'm actually on a 9th. Now, I may finish this before the end of April. I don't know. I think it's likely because I'm really intrigued by it. So technically I've read 8 and I'm on a 9th, and that's I'm so proud of that. That is the most I've read for quite a while. The first 4 books I read in April were I've recently talked about a bit more in depth in a recent reads video, so I'm going to link that down below and possibly on the screen if I can work it out, where I talk about 2 romances and the first 2 parts to a kind of well-known YA trilogy that I've read and loved. My kind of lowest rated at the moment in that video was I think a 4-star and like 5 stars, and now we're going to go on to the books I read after that. So the last book in that video was Cassandra Clare's A Clockwork Prince, part of the Infernal Devices trilogy, and I'd read that as part of one of my challenges for the reading rush. I only read 2 books for the reading rush, and I didn't really do an official wrap up, but one thing I can say is if you watch that video, I talk about how the other book I was desperate to get to during the reading rush was A Clockwork Princess. And that is where we will start here. I can't really say much about the plot of this other than it's part of the trilogy, the Infernal Devices trilogy, set in Victorian London, and timeline-wise, in the whole Shadowhunters world, this trilogy comes first. So before the kind of Mortal Instruments and all that jazz, historically, this comes first, because this was Victorian England, and I know Mortal Instruments is kind of modern day. But it essentially follows the story of this young lady here, Tessa Gray. She arrives in England in the first book, which was Clockwork Angel, as far as she's aware, at the request of her brother Nathaniel, who has been there kind of making a name for himself, and he has sent her a letter to New York saying, come, Tessa, we're going to work on it together. The parents passed away and everything. They used to live with their aunt, but she's passed away as well. So she comes to London expecting to go on this big adventure with her brother. She is met at Southampton Docks by 2 very mysterious old ladies who invite her to say, we're here, your brother has sent us to pick you up. And she's like, oh, okay, lovely, yes. So she gets in the carriage with them, and that's where it all starts going downhill, because the Dark Sisters bring her into this morbid underworld, dark, messed up kind of world, where actually Tessa discovers that her own history and her own self is not what she thought she is. She is trying to use powers that she didn't know she had, and this is all to impress someone who these 2 mysterious old ladies refer to as the Magister. I'm not going to say any more than that. If you know, you know. I adored this as a finale. I did it in 1 sitting. I think I read it in, was it just over or just under 24 hours? I did a Clockwork Angel. I read it with my sister. We did it about over a week and I loved it. I did Clockwork Prince in about a day because I was that obsessed with it. And this wasn't far behind. I think probably because I am a sucker for all the feels and all the emotions, this is probably my favourite of the trilogy. I would give this 6 stars if I could. But I gave Clockwork Angel 4 stars, Clockwork Prince 4.5 stars, but very close to 5 stars. I would give this 6 stars if I could, particularly because the emotion in here and the way everything not only ties up, but also kind of then points forward into the Shadowhunter universe, and you're thinking, hang on, I haven't read any of the Shadowhunter books, but I'm like, I know that name from what my sister has told me. So it's kind of made me intrigued to think more. I don't know where I'm going to go from here. I do know I've got Chain of Gold, which was kind of my whole reason for picking up this trilogy in the first place, so I probably will be heading there next, hopefully some point in May. But we'll see how we go from there. So yeah, that was the first book for this mini wrap-up. The second book that I read in April, I actually read this because, well, I started listening to an audiobook while I was starting on Clockwork Angel because I wanted something to kind of balance that drama. Who knew what was coming in Clockwork Prince and Princess? So actually I started this in Amongst the Infernal Devices, and that was, I finally read Love from A to Z by S.K.R. Lee. This is a gorgeous book. My God, this is a gorgeous book. Let me just remind myself. So our main characters, as you can see here, are Zainab and Adam. Zainab is a high-achieving schoolgirl in the United States, but she also doesn't really have a filter when it comes to putting her own ideas across. She comes face to face with what we learn to be a very racist and very Islamophobic teacher, and in the course of, in her opinion, trying to set him right, a kind of stray note that was only meant to be understood between friends results in her getting suspended. She gets sent to Abu Dhabi. Yes, she gets sent to Abu Dhabi to visit her aunt with the plan that her mother joins her later, and on the way she comes across this guy, Adam, who is flying from London also to Abu Dhabi. We learn about him that he has just been diagnosed with cystic fibrosis. This is kind of a horrific kind of genetic, I think it's genetic disease, but it's what killed his mother when he was very young. So he does not want to tell his father and his family. They both kind of cross paths at the London airport, and then when they get to Abu Dhabi, they meet again because it's Zainab's aunt works at the school where Adam's father, I believe, is the head teacher. And a romance ensued, and it's really cute and really precious. What I loved about this was not only the love story is really cute, and can I just say, seeing two people of colour represented on a romance novel like that, can I just say I'm absolutely here for that. But what I also loved about it was how it kind of addressed, from a YA point of view, not necessarily issues with Islam, but how Islam kind of impacts the modern day-to-day life of kind of 2020 teen, and kind of you learn about Zainab and kind of the traditions she follows, and then Adam and the kind of traditions he follows, and how they both have really big respect for their cultures, but also the way it raises major issues with Islamophobia. Later in the book, there is a massive incident that is completely Islamophobic. And I'm not referencing the teacher in that either, there's something else. And just to see how that is dealt with, and yet again going back to this kind of dialogue that the media seems to have at the moment, is that if they see a Muslim person stood in front of them, they must be a terrorist. Not the case. From someone who works as a librarian at a sixth form college here in the UK, and the majority of my students are from Muslim backgrounds, I can tell you that is not the case at all. They are some of the most wonderfully bonkers kids I've ever had pleasure in meeting in my life. And I just loved every aspect of this. So yes, it is a romance. Yes, it also does hit on harder issues, but it's also the most wonderful light read that really is the kind of read we just need in this world right now. This will be going, if it's not already, I will be ordering this for the shelves when I go back to work, because I think my students are going to absolutely lap this up. It's also, I know this is not S.K.R. Lee's first book, it's also made me really interested to read her back catalogue. One of the other things I'm trying to do while I'm in lockdown, you know, I preach about reading for pleasure to my students and getting them to read books and the opportunities it can hold for them. I want to start following that up by extending my knowledge on Muslim authors and Muslim stories, because I think but our students being able to see themselves represented on the page could be that huge thing for them, to see what they can see, to see themselves in characters maybe like Zainab, maybe like Adam. This is definitely, S.K.R. Lee is definitely one of the authors I want to kind of learn more about. A shout out to Neelam over at the Sunduko Chronicles, who I will link down below. She's given me some lists to start with, and also the Ramadan readathon is going on at the moment. Ramadan Mubarak to anyone who's watching and celebrating. I'll link their Twitter feed down below because they have some really good recs for Muslim authors as well. But yes, Love from A to Z got 4 stars from me. So after I finished the Infernal Devices, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of lay there for a few days going, I really want to read, but I don't know what to read. The Infernal Devices was a trip, man, and I just loved every second of it. And I thought, okay, I was in that reading break before where I wanted to read, but my brain wouldn't let me, and I went to romance. Which if you see that recent reads video, you'll see exactly what I mean. I went to romance. So let's do that again. So I picked up the precious Tweet Cute by Emma Lord. This is Emma Lord's debut, and essentially you have Pepper and Jack. I am informed this is a kind of cheese in America. Pepper Jack. So you have Pepper, who is part of her mum's unofficially part of her mum's marketing team, because her mum runs and her family own Big League Burger, which is like one of the biggest fast food restaurants across the United States. There is an incident at the start of the book where Jack, who helps out in his family's local bakery and kind of brunch cafe place, sees online, because he does all the social media and the marketing for his family's bakery, much to his dad's chagrin. He sees online that Big League Burger have apparently stolen the recipe to his family's most iconic sandwich, Grandma's Special. And that they are now passing it off as their own. This starts a kind of Twitter war between the deli and Big League Burger on whose is better, and you've stolen this from us, how dare you do that, this isn't what you should do to small businesses. Meanwhile, while all that's going on, Pepper and Jack actually become more aware of each other at school, but on a app that Jack has designed called Weasel, I would say Weasel. It is an anonymous app that only students from their school can go on. They're given anonymous names, and the idea is that at some point, pop goes the weasel and you will find out who you've been talking to. Now, Jack is on this app, he created it, but he's on there as Wolf, and he has struck up a really wonderful, beautiful friendship with who he assumes is a girl called Bluebird. They have lovely conversations, wonderful, wonderful things. What we know as a reader is that actually Jack is Wolf, Pepper is Bluebird, and they are striking up the sweetest, kindest friendship, and they also, without knowing they're on Weasel, start becoming friends in real life as well, to the point that Jack doesn't want to ruin it for Bluebird, being disappointed in who he is, so he's actually changed the app so that they won't be revealed to each other. So you've got them warring on Twitter, but not knowing who is who on Twitter, just under their corporate accounts. You've got them being friends in real life without knowing who they are on Twitter, and you have got this beautiful blossoming friendship that turns into a bit of romance going on Weasel, and it's just so sweet. It's so lovely. I took up my brain a little bit while to get into this, but I think that's more me than the book, and I just loved it. I thought it was precious. If this is Emma Lord's debut, I'm fascinated to see what else she writes. Their relationship and the kind of when things get revealed and then you learn other things, and it's just so precious. If I talked about Love from A to Z being the kind of book the world needs right now, this is also the kind of book what the world needs right now, as is the next book I'm going to talk about. So I gave this 4 stars. Okay, speaking of books the world reads right now, everyone knows I'm a librarian at a sixth form college with students 16 to 19 and then into adult years. But I have a lot of colleagues who work in primary schools, and all of those colleagues, since I have met them, have been going on to me about reading not only a range of books, but one book in particular. They were like, how have you not read that? You will love it. And I was like, yeah, I'll pick it up. And then at the start of this month, as you may have noticed, this wrap-up doesn't match my TBR at all. I can only apologise for that. At the start of this month, I put out on my social medias, both for this channel and my personal ones, to suggest me some reads from a random selection, and someone picked this book and I was like, maybe it's time to read it. I read it in a day. Jelly by Jo Cottrell. I could relate to this so hard and so much, and I'm like, oh. So this is about a character called Jelly. She is still at primary school. I'm not sure what that is in America. Her real name is Angelica, but everyone calls her Jelly because she's a big girl. She's a big girl. She is the class clown. She's a comedy queen. She does impressions of the teachers. She's always getting told off for it. And she's this bubbly, wonderful kind of spirit who you can relate to so hard. But under all of that, as the novel goes on, she starts to question a lot of things about the world around her. She has no self-confidence. She has no self-confidence whatsoever, and when people make a joke about her size, it really gets to her. She has this notebook that she writes in when she feels sad, and you get a glimpse into this throughout the novel, and it's poems that she writes about her sadness, but no one sees it apart from her. At the start of the book, you've also got her mum, a single parent family, who is in a relationship with a not very nice guy called Chris, but we're not going to spend time talking about him because he's an asshole. But one day, mum brings home a new guy called Lennon. Beatles, much? And he kind of befriends Jelly, and kind of initially through music, he gives her a harmonica, and she's like obsessed to learn it. And it's just the most beautiful story of being your truest self, being who you want to be, and forgetting what everyone else says. If I could have given this to me at like 8, 9, 10 years old, oh God, I would have eaten it up. I would have absolutely eaten it up. I've always been a big girl, but this would have absolutely hit me in the feels. Kind of high-end primary school, low-end secondary school. I think this is a must-read, particularly for anyone with self-confidence issues. I loved it. I thought it was precious. I gave it 3.75 out of 5 stars. Not because I didn't like it. Far from it. I loved it. And like I said, I related to Jelly on so many levels. But just because, the level of enjoyment I got out of it, I'm not the target audience for this. I'm not the target audience for Jelly, and I've said that before. That doesn't take away from my enjoyment, but in the context of me being 35 years old and reading and appreciating Jelly, it was a lovely book that I will remember. Will I come back to it again? I don't know. Will I buy it for my younger nieces and nephews? Hell yeah. Boys and girls. Quite frankly, a lot of things would be better in the world if we could just all be a bit more like Jelly. So that is all the books I have finished so far in April. Like I said, I'm recording this on Wednesday the 29th of April. I am currently though reading one more book which I might finish before the end of April, and if that's the case, that's 10 books in April. Hi! But I might not, and if I don't, it'll be the first book I finish in May. And that is, I finally picked up The Weight of the Stars by Kate Ancrum. This has been recommended to me so damn much. Oh God, everyone I know on BookTube loves this, and was like, oh my God, you have to read it, it's gonna wreck you, but you need to read it. And it's a really unusual cover. I have to say, the first person on BookTube that I heard recommend Kate Ancrum in her first book, which was The Wicker King, which I have somewhere over here to read, I think it was Julie over at Pages and Pens, and then I know this one kind of hit home for so many. I am that much through, that much since I've read that much. And 222 pages, and I think it's about 360 to 370. So basically in this, you have our two main characters. You have Ryan and Alexandria. Alexandria is the daughter, lives with her dad. She is the daughter of, she's known as let me start that again. Ryan and Alexandria. Ryan lives in a trailer on the bad side of town with her brother, who for some reason something really bad happened to them both when they were young, and her brother has taken a complete vow of silence and kind of communicates through hand gestures, facial gestures and text messages. They also have her brother's baby Charlie, who was left on their doorstep one night but who her brother absolutely coos over. On the other side of town, or arriving in town at the start of the book, is Alexandria. She lives with her dad, but every night she goes up onto her roof with a radio receiver listening to signals from space. The reason this is because I think probably when she was maybe months old, days, weeks, maybe months old, Alexandria's mum was chosen to go on a mission to outer space by a private company called Scout. But it was a one-way ticket. And she goes up on the roof every night to listen to if there's any communications from her mother. She can't send communications out because they're too far ahead in space, but she can hear things coming to her, if that makes sense. So her dad did it for years, and then she took it on. One night, Ryan and her motley crew, it's the most wonderful friendship group, are near Alex's house, and they see her on the roof, but obviously at this point they don't understand why she does it, and Alex gets distracted and falls from the roof. We're talking broken arm and broken skull. It's that kind of fall from the roof. Sorry, stretching my legs. And while she's in hospital, Ryan goes over to apologise to her dad and basically takes up the mantle of going up on the roof every night and listening for these potential messages so that Alexandria doesn't miss something. When Alexandria comes back, she obviously still has the broken arm. So Ryan ends up kind of being there with Alexandria every night, physically pulling her up onto the roof because obviously with a broken arm, she can't do it herself. What starts as a wonderful friendship, as a kind of growing friendship, very kind of enemies to friends, because Alexandria did not like Ryan at the start, is slowly potentially blossoming into something more. Like I said, I'm over halfway through. You can... they're so cute. They're really, really cute. And yeah, it's potentially blossoming into something more. We've got to a point where there is more progression in the story and they're trying to find out, Alexandria and Ryan and this amazing group of friends, Ahmed and Shannon and Blake and Thomas, they are trying to find out if there is more to kind of Alexandria's mom going off into space and the kind of whole hubbub surrounding it than her dad's ever let on. I won't say any more than that. It is a wonderful book. Firstly, look at those. All the sound waves. All the sound waves. I'm really enjoying this. It threw me off in the style a bit because, if I can show you, the chapters are literally, at some point, a page long. Literally, you'll be like going from page to page. I don't know if I can show you this a bit. Let me take the dust jacket off so I don't lose my place. And if you can see, you've got kind of... So there's the start of one chapter. And there's the start of the next chapter. And there's the start of the next chapter. And I was actually reading this, I had the ebook of this as well, and I was reading this in bed last night. And it's really off-putting to be like, chapter, chapter, chapter. It was very off-putting, but now I'm used to it. I feel like I have read loads. I feel like I've been reading like a 1,000-page epic high fantasy novel. When actually I've only read 220 pages. But I think that kind of adds to it that I am part, you know, this kind of epic world that Ryan and Alexandra are part of, and this relationship that is blooming. It started from next to nothing when they didn't even know each other. It's gone from hate, it's gone from understanding. Will it become more? I'll find out, but I am really, really enjoying this. I hope to finish this before, so it's Wednesday today, May starts on Friday, so if I finish this today or tomorrow, you'll probably hear about it on my Instagram, link down below, please give me a follow. But I'm really enjoying this so far and I can totally see why everyone absolutely loves it. There you go. That's all my recent reads from April. I apologise that my wrap-up looks nothing like my TBR looked like at the start of the month. I did say it was an overly ambitious TBR and I kind of learnt that. However, what I am going to be doing is some of the books or kind of some of the suggestions my friends gave me, particularly my friend Kerry, who you can find over at Wheelie Stagey on Instagram, gave me. I'm going to save those and do a video about those another time. So her choices won't go to waste. In fact, she made new choices. Now she had longer to think about it. She's given me some more choices, so that will still be coming up. What have you been reading this month, BookTube? What has been your favourite book of the month? Have you read any of these books that I've talked about? Should I dive straight into Chain of Gold? Does that need to be my next book after I finish The Way of the Stars? Am I going to get pulled into this world? Who knows? Stay tuned to find out. I hope you are well. I hope you and yours are staying safe in this chaotic time. And I wish you nothing but joy, blessings, and all the wonderfulness you also deserve. This has been Stagey Bookish. My name's Olivia. I'll see you on the next video, folks. Bye!